We will welcome into the show Brian Baldinger, NFL Network host, analyst, and insider, former longtime NFL offensive lineman at NFL Baldy on Twitter. And, of course, Brian, you and Michael go way back. You were in the trenches looking at film together back in the day at NFL Network. And I just started working with Michael a couple months ago. So I was wondering if you have any good Lombardi film session stories for me so I can get some dirt.
Well, some of that stuff, Stormy, should just stay between the walls here at NFL Films. I'm not sure that some of these things should be broadcast over the national airways right now.
Fair.
Yeah, I think you're right, Baldy. Let's talk about the impact of the draft as it relates to some of this team. Where are you on Bryce Young influence on what I think is a really good – I mean, Carolina's not a first pick in the draft talent team. And how much impact do you think he can make on their season next year?
Well, I think, they're a pretty well-built team. I think Matt Rule started it. And, you look at just the offensive line alone. I mean, it's a quality offensive line. They've addressed it through the draft, Mike. They've addressed it through free agency. But, picking up Ickey last year was a really good pickup, and picking up Bozeman and Corbett. And I always thought Taylor Moton was a quality right tackle. So I think the offensive line is there. They got a lot of, they got a very good secondary, very talented secondary. And so, Brian Burns and Derek Brown were really good picks. I mean, they got a lot of pieces in place. And look, Frank Reich's got a good staff right there, Mike. I mean, I think they can compete this year if Bryce Young comes out and, takes care of the football, but yet is still aggressive. And, can stay healthy and stay up for 17 games. And I think Carolina can compete this year. They did with Sam Darnold the last 6 weeks of the season last year when they won 4 of the last 6, and we're in every game, Mike. So I think the foundation is pretty good right now with Carolina.
Yeah, and I mean, anytime you're breaking in a rookie quarterback, there's going to be some growing pains, but you do at least have the good fortune of playing in one of the weaker divisions in the NFL as well. And as you were listening to the draft and watching all these players get selected, did you see somebody that when they were taken by a certain team, you thought, wow, that guy is going to be able to make an immediate impact and be a difference maker for that team?
Well, I mean, I thought Devin Weatherspoon was the best corner in this draft by far. And he went early, and I didn't think he was going to be around. I mean, for him to go to Seattle, I mean, it almost looks like they're rebuilding the Legion of Boom in Seattle. What they did in the draft last year, what they have in Quandre Diggs. You had Witherspoon right now. I mean, I haven't seen a corner hit like that. Mike, you have a pretty good reference on this. I mean, that guy, his physicality, his ability to read routes, jump routes. I mean, and you get him with the opposite the corner they had from a year ago. I mean, I just think that guy right there, I mean, you have to go very far in the draft before you said that guy's going to make an impact.
Yeah, I agree, Baldy. I think one of the things that I think when you talk about the Legion of Boom, one of the things that I think Pete's not been able to have is that 3 technique. He hasn't had the Michael Bennett. He hasn't had that guy that really creates problems. And we all talk about the NFL as like everybody has a great 3 technique, yet you and I both know they're very few and far between. And Dramonte Jones gives them that guy in there. He played well for Denver last year. So I do believe they're closing the gap on the 49ers. Are they there yet? I don't know, but I do think they had another really good draft. I believe they can do that. I want to ask you about Washington. I look at Washington's team on tape and I say they should be better than 7 wins, right? And I know Sam Howell's a rookie quarterback, but for me, Washington's too good on defense, although they don't force turnovers. And yet they should be better with their skilled players. Where are you at with this Washington football team?
Well, I mean, a lot of it's going to fall on the quarterback. I mean, I can't believe how much they seem at least from the outside, Mike, to be all in on Sam. Now, he started 1 game. Okay. Well, you go back to 2017, Patrick Mahomes started 1 game, and then he was shortly after he was the MVP. I don't foresee that with Sam Howell. But if he's better than what they've lined up under center over the last decade, if he's better in that department, I mean, they've got a lot of pieces in place. And defensively, if Chase Young becomes anywhere near what he looked like at times his rookie year, I mean, their front is really, really talented. And so you had the pieces that they did whether it's Emmanuel Forbes right now in the secondary or Jatavius Martin. I mean, they kind of really try to strengthen their secondary in the draft. I thought they were competitive with Dallas last year, and they beat the Eagles when they were 8-0 last year, Mike. And, they went to the mat with the Giants twice. Like, why can't they compete in the NFC East? I don't think anybody's that much further ahead of them right now, except, Philadelphia. Obviously you make a Super Bowl run, They still got to go do it. But Washington lined up and ran the ball right at them. After they ran the ball against them on Monday night and beat them, Mike, Howie went out there and got themselves and Dominican Sue and picked up some defensive tackles to try to stop the runs the rest of the season.
Brian Baldinger with us of NFL Network. The schedule release, of course, comes out last Thursday. It's like even in the midst of the NBA and NHL playoffs, the NFL still getting people more excited and geeked out that we have schedules for games that aren't even going to be starting until September. But to me, like sometimes equally as important as the opponents that you play on the schedule are the when, the where, the situation with which you are playing them. Were there any big takeaways from the schedule release for certain teams for you, thinking that, hey, they're going to have a really tough go of it early, or maybe that schedule is really going to play to their advantage? Any big takeaways?
Well, I think most of them have been covered, Stormy. I just thought, the NFL makes very few mistakes when it comes to the schedule. I mean, we'll see if Detroit can go into Kansas City on, September whatever it is, 8th or 7th or 8th, and, knock off the world champs or compete with the world champs. I have my doubts. But I just thought, like, opening week, Stormy, honestly, you got 8 division games. You want to kind of stack yourself up in the division. I mean, you don't have to go very far. I mean, you look at just, Atlanta, Carolina, week 1. You go through the whole, schedule right here. Chicago and Green Bay. Is Chicago better? What's Green Bay? You kind of, you look at these teams in their own division, and you kind of try to make some assertions about what's going to happen within that division. And so I thought they got that right. Usually they kind of stack these things at the end of the season, the Giants, Dallas, week 1. I mean, you find out a lot about these division matchups week 1 and how teams can compete in them.
Yeah, I agree, Baldy. I think to me the league doesn't mess it up too much. Where are you quickly on the Jets? Are you all in that they're just going to just take this giant 12-win season, or are you a little cautiously optimistic?
I'm cautiously optimistic, Mike. There's a bad history in that building. I got to see more from Robert Saleh. You got to be more than a defensive line coach in this business. There's a lot of strategy in play. You kind of grow into the job sometimes. Sometimes you're made for the job. But I haven't seen Robert Saleh in some of these situations where, whether it's time management, Mike, in preparation for a team. I mean, you got to do more than just rush 4 on defense and say, okay, we'll just let those guys go hunt. And then offensively, they've made changes at the coordinator positions. Let's just see what Nathaniel Hackett. Let's see what they do offensively, because I thought they were awful a year ago, regardless of the quarterback situation. I thought they were unimaginative. I didn't think they'd play to their strengths. And so let's just see if they can build an offensive line that can stay healthy. And let's just see if the coaching staff can compete on that end of it with some of the other coaches in that division.
Last 30 seconds, they're trying to make the playoffs for the first time since 2012. What's a successful season for them, though, given what they have gone out and done to get Aaron Rodgers?
Well, they're all in on Aaron. And so, whether he plays a year, 2 years, or whatever it is, I mean, they got to be a playoff team. If they finish 9-8 and they're on the outside looking in, if they're 10-7 and they don't qualify, that's going to be a disappointing season. I mean, he's there to get them into the playoffs. And they have drafted pretty well. Joe Douglas done a good job. It's up to Aaron right now. He's getting what he wants, from a standpoint of talent and certain players. We might get a few more before the season starts. They got to be a playoff team for this thing to be anywhere near close, because they missed on Zach Wilson. And when you miss on Zach Wilson, sometimes you got to go overpay to get a guy like Aaron Rodgers.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.